My beloved grandson deceived me and took all my assets. But just 90 days later, I made him kneel at my door. My name is Robert. I'm 70 years old. I never imagined that at this age, after living a full life filled with both joy and sorrow, I would face the deepest betrayal of my entire existence. And what's worse, it came from someone I loved with all my heart, my own grandson Ethan. After my beloved wife passed away 5 years ago, life grew quieter, almost too quiet. We had built a beautiful life together. A modest home with a cozy garden, some savings, a few investments. Nothing extravagant, but enough to live comfortably and to leave something behind for the family we cherished so much. Or, at least, that was the plan. Ethan was always my pride and joy. I watched him grow from a little boy with scraped knees and a toothy smile into a confident young man. Sure, he made his share of mistakes along the way, but who doesn't? I thought I knew him. I thought he loved me the way I loved him. I thought he cared. As I grew older, tasks that once felt simple became harder. I had trouble managing my finances online, keeping track of property taxes, renewing insurance policies. Ethan offered to help. "Grandpa, let me take care of it," he said with that same earnest look he used to flash when he asked for extra dessert as a child. I was grateful, deeply grateful. So I did what many trusting old men might have done. I gave him power of attorney over my affairs. At first, everything seemed fine. Bills were paid. The house was maintained. Life continued at a slow, peaceful pace. I would often sit on the porch, watching the seasons change, feeling content that although my body was aging, my heart was at peace. But then, small things started to feel off. Letters I expected never arrived. My bank would call about unusual activities I couldn't quite understand. Ethan always had an explanation ready. "Just routine checks, Grandpa. Nothing to worry about." His words were smooth, practiced even, but I was tired and trusted him without digging deeper. Until one day, I woke up to a knock on the door. It was a man in a suit carrying a briefcase. His tone was cold, his words even colder. "This property has been sold. You need to vacate within 30 days. I thought it was a mistake. I laughed at first, thinking surely they had the wrong address. But they didn't. I called Ethan frantically, my hand shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. Voicemail. I drove to his apartment. Empty. I called his friends, his work, even the old neighbor who used to babysit him when he was little. Nothing. Ethan had vanished like smoke on a windy day. I stood there, outside his empty apartment, feeling like the earth had cracked open beneath my feet. How could this happen? How could he do this? The boy I taught to ride a bike, the boy whose tears I wiped when he scraped his knee, the boy I once promised to always protect, had robbed me of everything. The weeks that followed were a blur. I had nowhere to go. Most of my savings were gone. I ended up in a rundown assisted living facility that reeked of bleach and sadness. Every night, lying on that hard, narrow bed, staring up at a stained ceiling, I asked myself the same question. Why? Everyone I spoke to told me the same thing. Forget about it, Robert. He's long gone. You're too old to fight. Just live out the rest of your days in peace. But I couldn't accept that. I couldn't just let it end like this. Not with me beaten, broken, abandoned. One rainy afternoon, I sat in the small common room of the facility, watching raindrops race down the window pane. An idea struck me, a memory actually. Ethan had once mentioned something about a piece of land, a dusty plot way out in the countryside that my wife's parents had left us, but we never did much with. I remembered signing the preliminary paperwork to leave it to Ethan one day, but had I actually finalized it? Had I ever signed the final transfer deed? I shuffled back to my tiny room, heart pounding like a drum. I dug out my old laptop, the one that had been gathering dust in the closet. It took nearly 20 minutes just to boot up, but when it finally blinked awake, I dove into my old emails. There it was, an email from the title company, dated nearly a year ago, asking me to schedule a final signing appointment to officially transfer the land to Ethan. An appointment I had never made. My fingers trembled as I realized the land was still legally mine, and Ethan, in his greed, had assumed otherwise. A spark lit inside me that I hadn't felt in years. Maybe I wasn't as helpless as everyone thought. Maybe I could still fight back. I spent the next few days carefully gathering every scrap of paperwork I could find. I contacted an old friend, Sam, a retired lawyer who still owed me a favor from years ago. After a few phone calls and some digging, we realized Ethan was actively trying to sell the land, falsely claiming he had the rights to it. If I moved carefully, quietly, I could not only block the sale, but set a trap that Ethan would walk straight into. But I didn't want to just stop him. No, after everything he had done, I wanted him to feel what he had made me feel. Betrayed, exposed, powerless. I worked with Sam to put together a new will. One that, if discovered, would make it appear as though I had come into a large inheritance that would pass on to whoever was my legal heir. It was just bait, a story crafted perfectly for Ethan's ears if he was still lurking around, sniffing for any leftover crumbs of wealth. And then, with Sam's help, we spread the rumor that I had passed away quietly in the nursing home. We didn't publish an obituary. That would have made things too official. Instead, it was just whispers, carefully placed through old friends, former neighbors, and social media accounts Ethan still secretly monitored. And then we waited. The first few weeks passed by in silence. I went about my days at the facility, pretending everything was normal. Deep down, I wondered if the plan would even work. Maybe Ethan had already moved on to some other poor soul to scam. Maybe he didn't care about me or the land, after all. But then, one morning I got a call. It was Sam. "Robert," he said, his voice barely hiding his excitement. "He's back." Apparently, Ethan had returned to town just a few days after the whispers of my death started circulating. He hadn't come to mourn or pay respects. No, he had come sniffing around the supposed inheritance, like a wolf catching the scent of blood. He had even reached out to an old acquaintance of mine, subtly asking about my will, whether any assets had been left unclaimed, whether there might be something he was entitled to as my only living heir. His greed was so predictable it was almost laughable. But we weren't ready to confront him yet. No, not just yet. We wanted him to make a move, something clear, undeniable, something that would tie the noose around his own neck. It didn't take long. A week later, Sam called again. "You're not going to believe this," he said. Ethan had filed paperwork claiming ownership of a land, my land, using forged documents. Worse, he had entered into a sales agreement with a real estate developer, promising to deliver the property for a hefty six-figure sum. That was the final piece we needed. Sam worked fast. We filed official complaints with the authorities, providing all the evidence we had. The old emails, the unsigned transfer documents, the forged papers Ethan had created. We coordinated with the local police, setting up surveillance. It was all by the book, airtight. But we wanted one last act, one last scene where the mask would be ripped off in the most public way possible. We arranged a meeting at my old house, the one Ethan had stolen from me, the house he had so proudly claimed as his new domain. Sam called Ethan, posing as a representative from the development company interested in buying the land. They needed to confirm a few details before finalizing the purchase. Ethan, blinded by the thought of easy money, agreed immediately. The day of the meeting, I stood a block away from my former home, heart pounding. The house looked different now. The garden was overgrown, the paint chipped, the soul of the place, my wife's touch, long gone. It was just a hollow shell now, much like the boy who had betrayed me. I watched from a distance as Ethan strutted around the front porch, checking his watch impatiently. He had no idea what was coming. 2 black cars pulled up to the curb. Out stepped Sam, a few uniformed officers, and a representative from the district attorney's office. Ethan's smile faltered for just a moment when he saw the badges. He tried to play it cool, tried to pretend he was just there for a meeting. But as soon as Sam pulled out the folder, the evidence folder, and started reading aloud the list of charges, his face drained of color. Forgery, fraud, elder financial abuse, attempted theft of property. The words hit him like hammer blows. He tried to deny it at first, claimed it was all a mistake, that Grandpa had wanted him to have everything, that he had permission. But when they showed him the unsigned land transfer, the fake documents he had created, and the surveillance recordings of him presenting false claims to the real estate agent. The fight drained out of him. They handcuffed him right there on the front lawn. Neighbors peered out from behind curtains. A few even stepped outside to watch. After all, it wasn't every day you saw someone get arrested in a quiet little neighborhood like ours. And certainly not someone they had once seen mowing my lawn, waving cheerfully on summer afternoons. I stepped forward then, slowly, my cane tapping against the sidewalk. Ethan's eyes widened when he saw me, alive, breathing, staring him down. "You thought you buried me," I said quietly, so only he could hear. "But you forgot one thing, Ethan. You taught me to fight." And I finally remembered how. For a moment, just a brief, flickering moment, I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who used to climb into my lap with scraped knees and tears in his eyes. But that boy was gone now, and in his place stood a man who had traded love for greed. They led him away, and just like that, he was gone. Again. But this time, it was different. This time, I was the one who walked away with my head held high. After that day, everything changed. It wasn't just about getting my property back. It wasn't even about punishing Ethan, although seeing justice served brought a deep, undeniable satisfaction. No, it was something bigger than that, something that stirred awake inside me, something I thought had been buried a long time ago. It was the realization that I still mattered, that my voice still had weight, that even at 70 years old, I wasn't powerless. And I wasn't alone. Sam and I spent the next few weeks sorting through the legal mess. Through the courts, I regained full ownership of my land and began proceedings to recover my home as well. Ethan faced several felony charges and, without much of a defense to stand on, he pled guilty to avoid a harsher sentence. He was young enough that prison wouldn't destroy him, but maybe, just maybe, it would teach him something about consequences, about honor, about family. As for me, once the dust settled, I had a choice to make. I could have sold the land and lived out my days quietly somewhere warm, maybe by the beach. I could have taken what was left of my savings, bought a small condo, and tried to forget everything that happened. But the truth was, I didn't want to forget. I wanted to do something. You see, in the weeks leading up to Ethan's arrest, while I was gathering evidence and laying the trap, I started doing a lot of research. I learned that elder financial abuse was far more common than I ever realized. Millions of seniors across the country get taken advantage of every year, often by the very people they trust the most. Children, grandchildren, caregivers, friends. Most of them, like me, are too embarrassed to speak out, too ashamed to admit they've been fooled, too tired, too defeated to fight. But what if they had someone to stand with them? Someone who had been there. Someone who could show them it wasn't too late to fight back? That's when the idea was born. With Sam's help and some of the money I reclaimed, I started a small nonprofit organization. We called it Silver Shield. It wasn't flashy. We didn't have big offices or a fancy website. But we had something better. Heart. A team of retired lawyers, accountants, social workers, and volunteers, all committed to protecting seniors from the kind of betrayal I knew all too well. At first, it was just a handful of cases. An old woman whose daughter had drained her retirement account. A retired veteran whose nephew had tricked him into signing over his pension. A lonely man who lost his house to a so-called friend who promised to help with repairs, but instead forged ownership papers. One by one, we helped them. Sometimes it was through legal action. Sometimes it was just by being there, listening, believing them when no one else would. And each time, I felt a little stronger, a little more alive. Of course, it wasn't easy. Running an organization, even a small one, takes energy, and I had my limits. My body still ached on cold mornings. I still needed my afternoon naps. But every time I thought about giving up, I remembered the look on Ethan's face when the cuffs clicked around his wrists. I remembered the look in the mirror when I realized I wasn't done yet, that I still had work to do. One evening, about a year after everything happened, I found myself standing once again on the porch of my old house, the one Ethan had tried to steal from me. After months of legal battles and paperwork, it was finally mine again. But it didn't feel quite like it used to. It didn't feel like home anymore. I realized then that the house wasn't what I had been fighting for. It was me, my dignity, my voice, my life. And I didn't need 4 walls and a roof to hold on to that. I donated the house to Silver Shield. It became our first official headquarters, a place where any senior could walk in off the street, sit down, and say, "I need help," without fear of judgment or shame. People thought I was crazy. Giving up a house at my age? Starting something new when most people were settling into their final chapters? But I wasn't settling. I was just getting started. And you know what? It felt good. It felt like I was writing a whole new ending to my story, an ending that wasn't about loss or betrayal or despair, an ending about hope, an ending about strength, an ending about fighting back, even when the world expects you to lie down and be silent. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder how different my life would have been if Ethan hadn't betrayed me. Maybe I would have stayed quiet, drifting from day to day, letting the world grow smaller and smaller around me. Maybe I would have told myself it was too late to start anything new, too late to matter. But life has a funny way of teaching you lessons, even when you think you've learned them all. You see, sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most painful experiences. Losing everything forced me to find something inside myself I thought I had lost forever. The will to stand up, the courage to fight, and the determination to make my life count, even in its final chapters. I realized something that I want every person listening today to hear, deep down in their bones. Age does not erase your worth. It does not erase your voice. It does not erase your right to fight for yourself. It's easy to believe the lie that growing older means fading away, that your best years are behind you, and that the only thing left to do is wait quietly until the end comes. But that's not true. Not unless you let it be true. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still capable of love, of action, of courage, of purpose. Don't ever forget that. I sometimes visit Silver Shield in the afternoons, just to sit by the window and watch the people coming and going. Some walk in hunched over canes. Some are pushed in wheelchairs by volunteers. Some arrive with the heavy weariness of the betrayed. But they all leave a little taller, a little stronger, a little more certain that they are not alone. It's a beautiful thing to see. And sometimes, when the day is winding down and the golden light is pouring through the windows, I catch my reflection in the glass. The wrinkles, the white hair, the stoop in my shoulders. Sure, they're all there. But so is the fire, the stubborn glint in the eye that says, I am still standing. If you're listening to this and you feel like life has beaten you down, if you feel like betrayal has stripped you of your trust, your dignity, your hope, if you feel like it's too late to start again, I want you to know, it is not too late. It's never too late. Maybe the world sees us as old. Maybe they expect us to sit quietly on the sidelines, forgotten, invisible. But we know better, don't we? We know that the spirit inside us, the part that dreams, that loves, that fights, is ageless. So if you've been hurt, get back up. If you've been betrayed, heal and move forward. If you've been silenced, find your voice again. The world still needs you. Your wisdom, your kindness, your strength. And more importantly, you still need you. Don't let anyone, not even someone you once loved, steal that from you. In the end, Ethan didn't destroy me. He woke me up. And for that, oddly enough, I'm grateful. Because sometimes it takes losing everything to finally find yourself. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, if it made you remember your own strength, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Your story matters too. And somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. And if you know someone who's going through their own battle, someone who feels forgotten or betrayed, share this video with them. Let them know they are not alone, and that it's never, ever too late to fight for the life they deserve. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, and never forget, you are still standing.